Warning, this video contains team selection and captain choices which some viewers may find offensive.
Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. Before looking towards Game Week 14, let's first look back to the previous game week and see how the team got on there. Despite a pretty poor start to the season overall, things over the past few game weeks had been going pretty well, rising from 2.5 million up to 720k, so some decent progress there. Last game week, however, well, sadly, the good run of Green Arrows had to come to an end eventually, and in fairness, it was self-inflicted. The game week was essentially over before it started, with me going through with that risky play to captain Mo Salah against Forest. Shortly before the game week deadline, there was an early leak of the team lineup, and when I saw Mo Salah playing through the middle, I felt if I was ever going to go against a Haaland captaincy, well, this could be the chance to do so, with Salah up front, facing bottom of the league Forest with the league's worst defensive record. Sadly though, it just wasn't meant to be. And to be honest, I can't even say I was unlucky here, because Salah and Liverpool were very poor throughout the game, and Nottingham Forest fully deserved their 1-0 win. I really want to give credit to Forest here, who I said last week were, I thought, the weakest team in the league, so full credit to them for an impressive battling and spirited performance. So with Salah's blank in the early kickoff confirmed, it was always going to be a rough game week from there, and at that point it was just waiting to see how damaging it was going to be. Erling Haaland didn't take long to punish, bagging 2 goals in the first half against Brighton, and the only thing I can be thankful for here is that he didn't add to that pain in the second half. Having already scored twice in the opening 45, I have to say I was really fearing the worst. In the end, with Haaland scoring 13 points and Mo Salah scoring 2, it was just the 11-point swing on that captaincy fail, which, although very painful, in the scheme of things it's not the end of the world. A setback of course, and ultimately a poor decision, but 11 points isn't too huge of a swing, and I think it's important to remember that, because it does feel a lot worse really in the moment when your captaincy decision's going wrong. Fortunately for me, one of my biggest differentials of the game week, Castagna, made that back himself last week, with an assist, clean sheet and full bonus against Wolves. He's now returned in 4 consecutive game weeks for me since buying him, and like I said in last week's video, no doubt my signing of the season so far. Granted, his 12-pointer would have been a lot sweeter had I also captained Haaland obviously, but that can't be changed now, and it was thanks to Castagna for saving me from absolute disaster, at least salvaging the game week somewhat, and not allowing my rank to drop quite as heavily. Castagna's points were all the more significant for me, considering just how bad it was elsewhere last game week, with Mitrovic's single goal the only other return in my side, with blanks all round. Another negative to the game week was of course selling James Maddison for Phil Foden, who after starting every single league game for City so far this season inevitably got benched the week that I brought him in. With Maddison then scoring against Wolves as well, that too was another 7 points thrown away, so truly the master of my own downfall last week, and it was one of those game weeks where simply doing nothing would have been a lot better. So for game week 13, a below par score of 47. As mentioned, salvaged somewhat thanks to Castagna, but still a very disappointing tally overall. With the Mo Salah captaincy fail, it was obvious I'd be on the end of a red arrow last week. It was more just a question of how big that red arrow was going to be. In the end, I dropped from 720k to 998k. A pretty sizable drop, and definitely disappointing to erase some of the progress I made in recent weeks. However, I have to say the drop in ranking isn't actually as bad as I was expecting, and at the very least I am still just inside the top 1 million. Hopefully I can put this poor game week behind me now, and get back to Green Arrows before the World Cup break. So let's move on to game week 14 now, check out my current team lineup, as well as some potential transfer plans. Also, if you do enjoy the content here at FPL TV, then be sure to leave a like and most importantly get subscribed. You can also hit the notification bell so you always know when a new video goes live. Heading into game week 14, the team lineup looks fairly strong on paper, with every player bar the Man City trio boasting fairly favourable home fixtures. In fairness, the team looks in a good position to potentially roll the free transfer this week, and although I do have a particular free transfer in mind, simply doing nothing and riding this one out does look to be an option. The first plan of action this week though, before making any potential transfers, is first waiting for all the European fixtures to be played, particularly with Arsenal still to play on Thursday evening. That Arsenal game will be particularly important for me, because Bukayo Saka still remains a strong transfer target this week. The Gunners are set to face Nottingham Forest at home in game week 14, and transferring Wilfried Zaha to Bukayo Saka this week is a move that I'm looking at. Following this Nottingham Forest fixture, Arsenal do then face Chelsea away in the following game, which does therefore put me off the idea slightly, especially considering I already own Martinelli, and also with Zaha himself having some very nice fixtures before the World Cup break. so it could be an unnecessary move, just like getting Phil Foden last week turned out to be. However, despite Zaha's decent upcoming fixtures, I just trust Saka and this Arsenal team a lot more, so that's the move that I'm weighing up before the deadline. As for the rest of my team, well, I'd say it's good to go this week, providing of course there's no other surprise injuries. Notably, both João Cancelo and Erling Haaland were taking off at half-time during their midweek Champions League fixture, with Haaland now being listed as a slight injury concern and Pep Guardiola making some comments about a potential foot injury. So that's something I'm going to have to monitor until the deadline, but hopefully nothing serious. In fairness, Andreas Pereira once again proved last game week that he's a more than good enough backup, perhaps too good at the moment even, with 2 assists, a 10-pointer on top of a very impressive display last week. Hopefully he won't continue to punish on the bench at home to Everton this week, but should the likes of Haaland miss out altogether, then I don't mind that at all. If anything, I was looking for an excuse to play Pereira this week. For the captaincy in Game Week 14, well, considering I was one of the managers on the end of that Mo Salah captaincy fail last week, psychologically, that of course makes it difficult to do the same thing again this week, even if he does boast an appealing fixture at home to an out-of-form Leeds. Notably, his opponent's Leeds are on the back of 4 consecutive defeats as things stand, most recently shipping 3 goals at home to Fulham last week. So Mo Salah certainly a tempting option after his goal and assist against Ajax in midweek, when adding to the fact that his record against Leeds in particular is very good as well. In addition, when looking at City's opponents Leicester, well, they're off the back of 3 consecutive clean sheets, whilst Haaland does remain a slight injury concern. So there's certainly some justification to go against him again here, but I'm just not sure I can put myself through it. Providing there's no further bad news regarding Haaland's fitness, then it's unlikely I'll be taking that risk again. I think this will come down to what gets said about Haaland in Pep's press conference, which will hopefully clear up a little bit on how severe this apparent injury actually is. For now, the armband does sit with Haaland, and like I said earlier, should he miss the game altogether, well, I won't mind that at all. Mo Salah looks to be a more than good enough vice-captain, whilst Andreas Pereira can come off the bench. I guess the only concern here is that Haaland starts from the bench for Man City this weekend in what is the early kickoff, and then potentially gets subbed on for a 1-pointer. And that's why trying to understand the severity of the injury could be key here. I don't expect Pep to give too much away here, but who knows. Considering it is the early kickoff, perhaps there'll be some early team news. So that's everything discussed regarding my team, potential transfers and captaincy this week. As per usual, I'll post the final team over on Twitter shortly before the game week deadline. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if so, please be sure to leave a like and most importantly get subscribed. Good luck to you all for Game Week 14, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all next week.